So I'm going to using Integrity to go ahead and it's so great to see everyone. Hello. Gotta love technology for this and connect. And maybe we'll have a chance to maybe do something else like this. Or if you want to get together before the end of the course and talk like through any of your projects, I can share a link where we can go in and share and talk as well. So we are really excited today because we have a guest speaker joining us, Donna, and I'll have Donna tell about herself in just a minute. And we're just going to use this as an opportunity to share and learn more about creating classes. Hello, Mary Owen. You may have to turn on your microphone because I think if it's red, that you've got to turn it on. There we go. You're good now. So Donna's going to be sharing with us some ways that she has helped facilitate creating classes online or blended at the K through 12 level. So Donna, if you want to go ahead and share and get started.
Okay, I'm Donna Brazier, and I teach at Lipscomb Academy in the high school area, and I'm also the integration specialist or technology coach, whatever you want to call it. And I am also the director of online learning at our school, and so I run the summer online classes that we offer. And we also have several blended classes during the school year as well.
All right. So one of the questions that was asked, and I'm just going to go off with some of your all's questions you've submitted, and if you guys have a question, feel free to jump in as well. How can a teacher with little technology get started implementing an online or blended course in his or her classroom?
Whoa, that one is difficult. Obviously, the more opportunities you have, or more things you have available, the easier it's going to be. But as long as you've got an internet connection and at least some form of being able to connect, there are times that I even do things with my phone. I would hate to think that I had to do everything with my phone, but you definitely can do things with pretty much any device. It doesn't have to be, but if you're really starting out, I would really want at least a laptop and a internet connection so that I could set things up. And then I would probably have to set it up differently for the students if they were connecting. If they didn't have any laptops, if they just had a phone or something like that, simple like that. We prefer that our students that are doing things fully online actually have a laptop or a desktop computer, not just an iPad or a phone.
Now, you all this year kind of switched the technology requirements for your high school students, and so what are some of the things that you guys have?
Okay, I lost you just a second, but I think I know what you asked. We have a new requirement that came in. It was started we told them 4 years ago, but this graduating class has to have either an online or blended class during their 4 years of high school. We felt like that was really important because so many universities use this concept, and a lot of people, even if they're when they're taking a class, they may need to pick up extra hours or something through the online format, and so we wanted our kids to be familiar with that before they got to university level. And so all high school students have to either have had an online class or a blended class through our high school.
I know a lot of high schools across the state of Tennessee have started implementing that, just as you said, to help prepare them for when they get to college. What are some of the classes and courses that you offer for them?
Okay, we offer several. In the summer, we offer our health classes is online, economics, government. Previously, we've offered their Bible class. We're not offering that this summer. And then we've also offered a Microsoft Office class, and this year we're actually changing that to a Google Drive, Google Docs, all the Google rather than Microsoft Office. We're changing it to that at Focus. During the school year, then we have several blended classes. The class I teach is nutrition and foods during the year, and the students come to me on the days they cook, and then the other stuff is online. We also have economics, personal finance, government that are blended during the school year. So they have more than, some different opportunities to take different things.
Excellent. Okay, another question that a student asked: what are some instructional strategies teachers can use to scaffold or model learning for K through 12 students in a completely online environment?
It's a little more difficult, but just because when you are, I think the whole thing is a little bit more difficult because you don't necessarily know your students as well. At least I don't feel like I do, at least initially. And so I think you have to take some steps to kind of get feedback from them initially to know where they are, so that you can make the appropriate judgments of where you need to meet them or where you need to get them or where you need to begin. And after a little bit, I always try with my online classes especially. It's easier with blended because you do see them face-to-face occasionally. But with the online classes, I try to find ways to get to know them early on, and then they're more able to kind of let you know where they are, let you know what they, and for you to be able to know what they need in order to get them where they need to be. I think I didn't answer all of that, maybe because that was a lengthy question and I've kind of forgotten it.
That's okay. Students can ask questions. I'm just going through some questions, and they can ask and follow up as well. What are some things that you consider when planning for an online course?
Planning for an online course is much like any other course. Obviously, first thing you do is start with your standards or objectives or whatever your school calls it. You're going to start with that first, and so that you know where you need to be, and then you're going to start planning things. And I think an online course has to even be more organized. Not that a regular course is not organized, but I think it has to be more organized even than a regular traditional class because you present so much material up front that you have to be prepared and ready to go. And so I think there's a lot of prep work. In my normal classes, I always thought, if I did really good prep work up front, I had less to do on the back end. It made great. If I planned well for a test, it was made grading easier and all those kinds of things. So, but with online classes, I think it's a little different. I think you have to plan just as well up front, but I think you also have a lot more on the back end too. So, if you're thinking of teaching an online class because you think it might be easier, to me it's more work, not less. It's just a different kind of work, but you do have to have you be very organized, know where you're going, follow your standards, come up with good quality projects and things for them to do, so they actually get in and have to use the information that you're teaching them, for real world projects and things that will, really help them for you to see that they actually know it, not that they just are. Sometimes it's, you're not just going to give them tests and things like that. In other words, you're going to have them actually work on collaborative projects or whatever to make sure that they understand the material as well as know the objective information.
Excellent. You stated some great things kind of about the planning, kind of backward design with the objectives.
That's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. And then also thinking through those 21st century skills with creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking can happen in online courses.
Definitely. You want to do as much as problem with as you can with things that they would actually use out in the business world, or that would actually skills that they're actually going to need wherever they are, and incorporating all that in there so so that they realize that they're not just learning facts, but they're actually putting them.
All right. What platform do you feel is the most effective for setting up and implementing the course?
We use Schoology. I love it. I think Google Classroom is really great. There are a lot of different things that you could do. I know at the university levels they mostly use Blackboard. We chose not to do that. We were trying to choose something that was a little bit more user friendly for both the teachers and the students. I think there's a lot of really good ones out there. We started out using wikis. And still occasionally we use a wiki for, just various different information. But for actually making assignments and the students are submitting assignments, we use Schoology. But like I said, I think Google Classroom is a great option. It just wasn't an option when we started, and that's just how much things have changed since we've been doing this. And our teachers had set things up so nicely in Schoology. The middle school actually started that with Schoology. We didn't want to ask them, okay, now you've set everything up in Schoology for a year, we're going to move you to Google Classroom. That just didn't seem fair. And also, Schoology has a few more analytics and mastery types of things that we really are going to make use of next year that are really nice.
What unexpected hiccups have you encountered, and how did you overcome them?
There are definitely times that I thought, this was going to be a great, things like, to me, the things that are the synchronous things like we're doing right now are the things that most likely you're going to have a problem with, because something, otherwise, if there's a little bit of an issue, a student emails you, you got time to get it straightened out before the next student does it. But anytime you're trying to do anything with Google Hangouts or some type of synchronized thing, or collaboration where they're trying to, all collaborate at the same time, that's the times that there's more likely to be a problem. And I just try to tell my students that is, not unusual. If there is a problem, don't panic. If there is, let me know. We'll work it through. And the thing that is, for me, is most important is with the age students that I work with, is that I have to be accessible to them. That's something that's really different about. Excuse me for scratching my nose here. Thank you. I have to tell them that they have to be that I'm going to be there. I may just be saying I'll have to get back with you, but as long as I do that, it seems to work out really well. And then I'll just say, okay, I'll check and see what I can figure out on my end and get back with you. And it's not a cause for panic, in other words. Instead, you just need to realize that those kind of things are going to happen. They happen in a normal classroom. They're going to happen when you're doing online things. Don't be afraid to try something different and push different buttons and see what works and just explore. And it's just like anything else you do when you're learning. And I learn stuff new with it all the time. And I've been doing this. This will be my 6th year.
Awesome. How has student feedback impacted your instructional style?
That's a great one. We do send out a form that we ask them to fill out before we post their final grade. Just nothing like asking for constructive criticism, basically. Giving some little things. It's not going to be anything and I let them know that the actual teacher doesn't see it until after grades are posted. And then it's not like they can say, well, the teacher didn't like me, so they gave him a bad grade, or the teacher was mad at me, and that kind of thing. But it really does help to be able to have some ideas of what, because sometimes I thought, that was a really good project, that really worked, and then they had a different insight to it. So that helps me to know if I need to, maybe I didn't prepare them enough for it. Maybe I think the more things that I've gotten are on workload, things where I felt like the workload was appropriate. They may say, okay, that took me a lot longer than, it was not even, or that kind of thing. And so that's helped me to see those type of things. And then with various different teachers, it'll be different things, style. I would say the biggest negative that we get is that the teacher took too long to respond. That's the thing that people have when they're working online. They're working when they have time to work, and they want an answer right now. And while that's not totally realistic, you do have to prepare them for that, because I'll tell them, okay, your assignment may be due at midnight, but I'm not going to be I may not be checking my email at 11 o'clock at night. So, you need to plan ahead, or you need to realize that I may not be able to get back to you right then. But I think that's probably the thing that I've found that gives them the most trouble, is that they want an answer right now. And they just sort of have to learn and adapt to that too.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. What courses have you taught that students couldn't grasp the material as presented, and how did you remedy the situation?
That's good. That's a great one. I know what I teach as far as blended. You can obviously, when you're in a blended environment, you get a chance to say, was there any problem with what we did, and you can do that. But when we are in an online environment, it's more difficult. I know our economics course is probably the most difficult for the students, because a lot of times it's concepts that they have not had a lot of background in, and it's not so much that it's harder, it's just the material is kind of more new for them, where health is, you at least hear about healthy things and that kind of thing. It's not a hard concepts to grasp. So in those kinds of things, you have to do and what I would do in any class that I was doing this is I would let them submit things. I grade, and then I let them resubmit things, and we talk back and forth. It's because if I were in a regular class, I would talk things over. We would discuss things, and you can do that somewhat online, but it's really different. Definitely some kinds of formative assessments along the way, so you can see if they're grasping the material, even if it's just 3 or 4 questions. It doesn't have to be something big. And then if you can see they're not, then go back. And it works out really well just to do maybe a Google Hangout with that student. Doesn't necessarily with the whole class. You can do something where you're communicating with them, or just sometimes I just pick up the phone and talk to them on the phone. We just talk it over, and we don't have to actually be seeing each other. But if it's something that they need to show me something, or then FaceTime or something like that with that student that's having trouble, works really well.
Excellent. How were you able to create an environment that encouraged collaboration?
Hard. That was really hard for me as a student. I remember that was one of the things I struggled with, because I had my set time because I was a full-time teacher when I was doing it, I had my set times that I had time to work, and if somebody hadn't already commented or something, I couldn't comment back, and we couldn't go back and forth. That was difficult. But with the high school students, because they are, at least the ones during the school year, you get to see them in class, and then the ones in the summer, we just try to make sure that they have opportunities to have plenty of time to first make comments and then reply to comments, or if they're working on a collaborative project, that they have plenty of time in case somebody's out of town or doesn't have Wi-Fi or there's some kind of problems. So I think usually, as long as they have plenty of time, it works out pretty well. The biggest negative, you just can't do it and say, you've got to have this done by tomorrow, because it doesn't always work in scheduling.
That's great. I know in this class particularly, I don't have any group collaboration because they're working on their own unit to put into an online course. I do have a peer feedback forum if they want to give each other some feedback. But in another course, I use tools like Google. I share a link just like I did where they can access it anytime and their group can work on a project together, and then through like Google Docs and stuff as well.
Yeah, Google, all the Google stuff. Now that we have it so nicely, and it works so seamlessly with Schoology. That's where we do the bulk of our collaborative kind of things. We have other things that we do, like they may work on some group work on some other like Web 2.0 tools, but definitely Google Drive is the big one.
Mm-hmm. So how do you prepare the K through 12 environment for college?
That's a great question. As far as you obviously that's again beginning with the end in mind kind of thing. Thankfully, we have a college right on our campus that we get to collaborate with a lot, and we get to say, how are we doing? How are our students doing when they come over there? What are we preparing them for? What are we lacking, and those kinds of things. And so we get good feedback from the university on that. And obviously, if you're not in an environment like we are, where you don't have that luxury of doing that, but there's a wealth of material out there on the internet on those kinds of subjects. And if you're, an AP teacher, obviously you got specific guidelines. You know exactly what you're doing. I would go and talk to those people that are teaching AP courses. I would talk to, various people that are, the experts in your area, or your senior level teachers and that kind of thing. If you're in the lower end, how do I need to get them ready for, you're in elementary, how do I get them ready for middle school? How do I get them ready in middle school? I'm talking, and even in middle school, you can start talking about some things about university level, but moving them up the next level so that you make sure they're always ready. And hopefully at any high school, they're in connection with some university, some school that can give them some insight as to what they need to be doing in English, what they need to be, where they need to be in math, and that kind of thing. And if not, you can definitely look a lot of things up online and find some wonder.
Excellent. So I know that you guys do not have at your middle school completely online. You've got blended and flipped classrooms. What about at the elementary school? Have they explored that? Or are they looking at that, like doing some flip?
We're fixing to have a technology. I think they call it a retreat day, which is not a very good name for it, but it's actually a technology work day, and that's probably one of the things that we're going to discuss. As yet, no, they do a lot of things. We did, they did some virtual school when we had snow days, so they're definitely getting into it at the elementary level. Middle school or high school, but at some point in time they may be on some sort of platform as well. My dog's trying to get, so if you hear barking, sorry.
All right, so I have gone through and asked the questions that were sent in, so I want to open it up now for any of the rest of you guys, if you guys have any questions that you might want to ask. Don't be shy. And you may have to turn, I've noticed that several of you have muted your microphones, Dara, so if you need to turn it on, that's fine as well.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you all hear my questions?
Yes, we can.
I'm not hearing you now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You enjoy teaching online in the blended classroom, also face to face, just introducing the students to the technology and different types of interactions? Like, what's been the best part of it?
I like the online. I love setting this stuff up. If, preference-wise would be definitely the blended because I really enjoy students. And I really would, I like that bed because I still get to see more of their personality. But I do like teaching online. It's a different thing. It was a challenge, I guess, getting started doing it. And I do enjoy setting programs up. The actual enjoyment that I get from the person interactions, I don't get as much from them. I would definitely say that's harder to recreate. Try to get to know them. Have them as pictures. We try to show some personality, even though we're just online. But you do miss that. That kind of connection.
Okay, thank you.
So you do, can you guys hear my question?
Yes.
Okay. So Donnie, you do blended and online. So
right.
With the blended, they come in like 2-3 days a week, something like that.
They come it's a 2-3 day alternate, 2 days one day, 3 days next.
What kind of different activities do you do versus like on their blended days versus the online days?
Okay. Since mine's foods, the days they come with
so they're cookings.
but on the days that, like in a regular class, you might be going over material just like you would in a regular traditional class, or you might be giving tests that you didn't want, or you might be doing it. It's a whole lot more like flipped classroom.
Okay, that's
where you've got a certain amount of things they've got to do outside class. And then when they come in, then you're refining, you're making sure they understand, you're just going, not necessarily over the same information. You might be going over it, or you might be reviewing, you might be introducing something new, just like a regular classroom.
So would you say that more of your instruction comes from those online days or from the blended days?
For me, it's more presenting more. I present a lot more material online than I can in class. That's the thing about it. You can put it out there. Do they get it all? Not necessarily. I try to put lots of things out there. Those that are super interested, that they can go do more, or they can just choose to do whatever the assignment is otherwise. But the nice thing about having it set up that way, and with any kind of having some kind of platform where it's online, they can you can give them a lot of resources and things that people that are really into it can really benefit from. So I definitely present more material online.
One of my fears with the flipped classroom has been, or like a blended class, has been that I'm afraid if I do more instruction online for my students who either say they don't have access to the internet, or, or they're just not watching my videos, like how have you seen that like affect your blended class when they come in the next day, that like basically a wash because you have to start all over?
It's one of those things right at the beginning. You have to kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what's going to happen. If you don't have it, you're going to be behind. Your grade's going to suffer. We're not starting over. You've got to be, kind of disciplined where you want to say, okay, let me get you caught up. You have to make them understand that that's responsibility.
Right.
And that, and if you do that, if you let me just go back over this because they didn't do it, or after class do it. Then nobody's going to do it the next time. Nobody's going to, because they'll go, well, she'll talk about class.
Right.
So I try to resist that urge and to help them learn. So initially, my grades, like maybe learning what's going on or how to react that way, the grades might be lower, but it's not like significantly lower. It's not like, okay, it's like ongoing. Now, are there people that are not going to do it 9 weeks in? Yes. But there are people that are not going to do their homework, even if it's in a traditional classroom.
Oh, yes. No, I know.
You have a few of those, huh?
Yes, a few. I have a few.
Yes. So they have to see it's that it's a different way of learning. And I think it has to be, when I started out, it was, I put like smaller things, just a lot of little, things that they could go through pretty rapidly to kind of get them in the habit of what they're doing. Definitely, even after this far into the year, make your videos short, make them, they can be just a little bit, and it's a lot better to have watch videos than one longer video, and just, mix it up a little bit, have a lot of different things that they're doing. Don't just have them fill in a form or answer some questions, make them do something with it, and that is harder to me toward the end. I was like, okay, we've already done this kind of a project. We've already done this. Make them do a lot of projects, so just I can see they had to have done the reading material. So they had to have watched that video, or they wouldn't know what to do and that kind of thing. So, you have to vary your assignments a lot more to me than I did. I taught the normal classroom.
Yeah.
How do you gauge how many hours your assignments will take, and to that end, how many hours is appropriate for them to do reading, and then for writing or responses?
Okay. Well, and for our summer online program, we tell them up front it's going to be 12 to 15 hours a week, and they are going, because it's 8 weeks, and we're trying to pack in 90 hours of instruction plus what would normally be normal homework. And so, I had taught for years, so basically I knew, kind of what time it was going to be. Obviously, some people that are what we would describe, or what they would describe themselves as being techie, a lot of times can do the assignment more quickly because they don't have to figure out how to do this, that, and the other. And somebody that's a little more nervous around a computer, and yes, there are students that are like they are not good with a computer. They will, they may take a little longer just because the technology is slowing them down a little bit. But it's the same. I think it's a guess. It's just like it would be if you were a regular classroom teacher and you make an assignment of how long it's going to take. And sometimes, yes, incorrectly, but hopefully most of the time you have it pretty much on target how much time it's going to take.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about assessment. When you're testing them, how do you do? Do you do lockdown browser, or do you prefer that they test in class, or you do it on?
I do a lot of assessment with something other than a test, project kind of work. Our tests, our projects and things like that actually can more than the tests. Our tests are like 50-point tests, and rather than 100-point tests, and and I let them, because I know the temptation is there to cheat. Look at your book. All of our online testing is open book. There is a time limit, so they won't have time to answer every question or look up every question to answer it. We'll have to prepared at least somewhat, but I assess them other ways, really more so than testing, with online and with my blended class too.
I've tried doing projects as well, and some I've required to go to the testing center.
Right. Yeah, we have inquired about using Lockdown Browser. We were thinking we were going to have that this year. It didn't interface until about a month, but finally was interfacing with Schoology. And then it only interfaced with our laptops, not our iPads, and a lot of our students have iPads. So one of these days, if school again and lockdown browser interface, we may get out. A lot of our teachers have adapted so well to, if they're giving it as an in-class online test, they know how to watch, they know where to stand, they know, essentially, to keep. And I'm sure some cheating goes on to keep it to a minimum. But for online, to tell somebody, a middle school or high school student that is all by themselves retaking a test at home or something, to tell them, don't cheat. There are a lot that would be tempted to cheat, I'm sorry to say. And I don't want to put them in that position. I just tell them it's open book, but time limit.
I love how you talked a little bit about other options and using a variety of things and not just like a true false type questions to get there, which I think is great because it just connected to an article I read this week, I think the Chronicle of Higher Ed, about how things like lockdown respondus is there for those who are not really going to cheat anyway, and stories of like students who had like the papers with everything on the wall behind them, or one of a story of a student who had the mother under the desk like whispering answers up to the student and stuff. I'm like, what? That's crazy. So I like the idea of being able to provide a variety of assessments just like you would do in a classroom, because you know looking at a snapshot versus a photo album makes a big difference.
Exactly. I know when I started teaching, I look back and I think, okay, I used to give, 4 major tests, and then these 2, and that's where their grade came from, and primarily their tests. And now my grades are exactly the opposite. The tests are a small portion of their grades, not a small portion, but a much smaller portion than it used to be. And what their actual work that they do for me is a larger portion of their grade.
For essays and short answer questions, do you use any tracking or monitoring system that kind of reviews paper to see if it's similar to anything that's on the internet or is turned by other students? I know we had that with one of our classes. Lipscomb is the first time I've ever seen something like that, and I kind of I would get a little stressed if the number was anything other than 0,
right?
Because I just don't know how those work, or if you've tried to use them before, they're effective.
Right. We have TurnItIn.com at school. It's a program where our students can turn it. They can, when they turn it in, it will tell them. And like you said, they can. I had one the other day that said, "Oh, mine says 3, and I said 3's okay. You're okay. It's like it does check the percentage of where they possibly could have copied things. I know I used to. High school students their writing is usually not that advanced on a lot of things. And so if it's worded in a way that I would be suspect, I used to just take it and paste it in Google search, and, it would generally come up that they got it. And so there are a lot of ways that you can do that, because you can use the test, especially if they turn many things in. Hey, it's not their normal work. You can check it out that way if you don't have something like Turnitin.
So for a pre-assessment of their writing, just have maybe do a couple narratives or free writes to see with prompts, just to tell them it's ungraded, so you can kind of see their level of writing maybe.
Yes, I think that'd be fabulous. Just kind of see, right at the beginning, have them submit something, or even say, even if you submit something that you've written before, that's your writing, so I can know where you are, so that they know it's just if you know what you need to teach them. So anything like that, I think is a great way to handle it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm in a middle school, and we are pretty much starting from scratch next year with one-to-one. My classroom will be piloting that. How do I start modeling those expectations with 7th graders who are going to be kind of all over the place and have never had this chance to have an online class?
Right.
Do you see a learning curve?
Yes, it'll take them a little while, and it will. I would say I would be pretty. I am pretty lax with my students. I don't mind them having things out. Even before we were one-to-one, I let them use their phone on stuff like that, on research and stuff like that, where a lot of teachers didn't. So I had no problem with that. So I think you should say, okay, we're going to put these away now and not use these anymore. But I think you do have to set up expectations that this is how you're expected to handle this. This is the time they're using it. Please don't let me catch you, with your browser open to something it's not supposed to be, or you may lose a privilege or for a length of time or something like that. So I think with 7th graders, a long time since I taught 7th graders, but I do know they're, I think it's just like anything else. If you keep them on task, they got work to do. The time you're going to have trouble with them is when somebody's already through with their assignment, or those are kinds of when it. But if they know they've got something to do and I've got to get it done, or I'm going to have to do it at home, then I think they're going to work on the project. But if they get through early or through, then that's when you kind of have to say, okay, let me see your project and let me see. And then you might say, oh, I think you do, and get back on task. And it's just like anything else. They could be in the back of their goofing off, even if they didn't have an iPad or whatever. Are you having iPads or what are you having?
We don't know yet. We're thinking Chromebooks, but we're not sure.
We have Chromebooks. We have a little bit of everything, different places, but we have some Chromebook cards. They're great. I think they're a really good option. What do you teach?
Social studies.
Social studies. Like if you want to, especially if you're doing any kind of writing, that kind of thing. And some of the new ones are touchscreen. Some of the new Chromebooks. We don't have any touchscreen Chromebooks, but some of the new ones are supposed to be good at the touchscreen stuff, which is helpful. But there's a ton of really good things for them to do, and you'll like them. Then you may find that you'll need to set up your room differently. And it's not like you're definitely not going to be standing at the front of the room teaching. You may be standing at the back of the room teaching if they've got Chromebooks, so you can see people's screen and that kind of thing. And then, walking around, getting out among them. So definitely seeing, what they're doing.
Mario, and I think that's a great question. And as you are also going through this process and it's new for you, realize it is a learning process, and you may adapt as you go through. But definitely, as Donna said, like I kind of do a platter and think about these are our standards and expectations, and then constantly going back, even in, this is with the technology we're using, these are my standards and expectations, and then checking in with students, throughout especially if some, one or two may not be doing what they're supposed to be doing, just calling the class, let's see how we're doing, let's check in, and then also reevaluating if you need to adapt or change as well.
A lot of times, you'll learn very much. Oh, that one project didn't really work out like I thought it would. But I think proximity a lot of times helps as much as anything, because if you're close to them, if you want them, you don't even have to say anything. Just lay hand on their desk, and they'll get with the program.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
All right, I think we have time for maybe one more question, if anybody has one. Micah, you have anything? You're good?
No, actually, she asked my question right before me. I just accepted my first offer, and it's going to be at a rural high school. They just now got Wi-Fi. They just got a set of Chromebooks in, and so I was going to. Basically, her question is how to get students that haven't used technology into using technology. Don't even have any of the teachers there don't use an LMS yet. LMS yet. So it's a 350 student high school, nice and small. So then just listening to her question pretty much covered like how to get it started up.
Yeah, Google Classroom will probably be your friend, and all the Google Doc thing. Are you pretty comfortable with all the Google Doc?
Yeah, I've used them quite frequently here.
That you will just just amazing what we can get right there free. So, and our educational setting, it's just ideal. You'll like the Chromebooks are great. A great product.
Good.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Over my notes to see if there's anything I should have told you that I didn't.
While you're looking over that, I just learned last week. No, it wasn't last week. It was like 2 weeks ago about a teacher who is. She has kind of a blended classroom, and she has Chromebooks in her class, and so she just kind of like if she needs attention from her class, she'll say 30 and 30, which means in 30 seconds you need to have your monitor like kind of at a 30-degree angle and focused on her so she can share her instructions before allowing them to go back and stuff. And I thought that's really, really cool way. It gives the students time to finish up what they're working on, and then it allows you to have that visibility that they're paying attention.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Did you have anything else, Donna?
I think I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, and thank you so much for the class. I hope that this has been a good opportunity for you to hear from someone who has been doing this for 6 years at the K through 12 world, and how they're still even looking at expanding down maybe to their elementary, and that you have some good takeaways as you continue to work on your stuff. And so thank you guys for your time for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks, Donna. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And
nice to see you.
Yes, and
good luck with the rest of your masters.
Thank you, Donna. And I'm thinking that there might be a chance that maybe we could maybe do some other synchronous type meeting if you guys are up to it or have the availability just to ask questions and get together, because I love having this where we can all kind of connect to each other and build these connections. So maybe in the next couple of weeks we can look and if anybody's available to do that as well. So I'm going to stop the Google Hangout, at least for me, and the room is open. So this link that I've provided, and this is a great tool for you guys as you're looking at online or learning. With Google Hangouts, you can set like an open link, and so students can go back in and access the room if they're collaborating and stuff at a later point. So anyway, you guys have a great rest of the day, and Friday is coming up and weekend's almost here. Yay. Thank you guys. See ya.
Bye.